Hi, this is Murtaza Hassan speaking. Today's topic I'm going to give about what are the main documents that you require for a complex web application, right? Such as a very complex CRM system, for example. Now, there's many documentations involved here, right? But the four main ones I'm going to highlight here, right? One is your current state diagram. One is your future state diagram. One is your entity relationship diagram. One is your architect diagram or your BR or your business relation BRD diagram, business requirement documentation, and maybe your project plan documentation, somewhere around there. So sorry, these are more than four, but these are the one of the core documentations that you require. One of the main aspects of all these documentations, I believe, is the most important, is the entity relationship diagram and probably your architect diagram. Right? Why I say this is because let's just say you're building a very complex website that has a lot of forms, a lot of features and forms, and it's a whole, like for example, it's a whole ERP system that you're developing from scratch, right? Now, how would you go about in doing that? So when you develop your entity relationship diagram, right, that gives like a 70% understanding of what forms, what tables, what entity, what fields to create, right? So think this way, right, that, you're developing an application, let's just say you have a KPI document or something like that, KPI, a company that has, they're filling out the KPIs in Microsoft Excel, and you want to convert all that into SharePoint, right? So for KPIs, you've got your target values, and then you got your actual values that you're collecting, right, for your KPI measurements. So to do that, right, is to maybe create, like, maybe the company might give you a Excel document. This is how we're recording our KPIs, and you need to convert that to a database diagram, entity relationship diagram, which then you can maybe, you might be using, for example, a tool like SharePoint to make your whole KPI documentation there, or your KPI systems, right? Your software system, right? So this reason, or for this scenario, an entity relationship diagram is really, a key thing to have, right? And you need to get that correct. If you got your entity relationship diagram correct, then building your other parts of your forms and your website system or your SharePoint system or your CRM system becomes much more easier. For example, CRM, they use concepts called subgrid. For example, especially Microsoft Dynamics CRM, that uses a concept called subgrid. So subgrid can be like, for example, a company can have multiple contacts, right? So one account or one company can have multiple contacts. So in that way, your ERD diagram shows the picture. You'll probably have an ERD where you'll show your company or your account table, which has many contacts, and you can link that, and you know that you need a subgrid there. So this is very important information. Now, your current state diagram and your future state diagram, these are also important. Let's just say your current state diagram, let's just say you're using Microsoft Excel or like just a normal Word document for your current forms, or like a manual based forms, and you want to convert that to online forms like in SharePoint or CRM, right? Or even a custom web application. In that way, you can make a custom current state diagram. We're using Excel here in our current state. And then what's the future state? The future state is SharePoint. The future state is Microsoft Dynamics CRM, or future state is Salesforce CRM or HubSpot CRM, or the future state is a custom web application. Like an AI website, like in Claude Code, for example. And then you might even consider what databases you want to use. MongoDB, SQL Server, Dataverse, all these things, And then you have, your architect diagram. What's so good about the architect diagram? The architect diagram gives like some parts of your architect diagram. Your architect diagram can be divided into many factors. Your database architect diagram, your application architect diagram, your business unit your business unit architect diagram, Your API architect diagram, all these areas, your integration architect diagram, your cyber area architect diagram. It could be all, divided into those areas. So for example, let's just say you have a web application or you have like a CRM system, and your CRM system is linked with ERP systems, so for example, Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations, or SAP, or Oracle, or something like that. And then your application is also linked to other systems, maybe a third-party website, so maybe some private website or government website that it's linked to your application. So this is where your architect diagram comes in handy, where you can get a good picture of it. And in reality, if you make a custom website, the best thing to do when you make a custom website, especially if you make it in like AI or Claude Code, right? The main tools you probably need is like your UI UX prototype documents or images. You need it's good to have your ERD diagrams, your architect diagrams. When you have all this established, then you can make your Claude Code or your Windsurf or your Cursor.com or even Copilot or something like that can make a better web application for you. So I hope this video is very handy, and I want to recap. So a couple of documents that you need or you should need for a complex web application is a current state diagram, a future state diagram, an entity relationship diagram, architect diagrams, and maybe like things like a business requirement documentation, both high level and low level. You have your user stories and your epics and user stories, and your project plan, all that stuff. Maybe your project plan might have what programming language is required to develop this web application. Is it going to be React.js? Is it going to be Angular.js? Is it going to be Node.js? Is it going to be C#? Is it going to be Java? So these are the things to consider. Thanks for watching my video. Thanks.